John, you've been at the forefront of the jazz world for quite a few years now. Would you like to tell us about how it all began for you?
Well, yeah, I've been around for a while. I started my career back in the early 80s with Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers in New York. That's when I lived in New York, and we traveled the world with that organization. And when I left that, because I'd been coming to London with art for several years before, I'd made a lot of friends in London and got to know a lot of people, and really liked the scene in London, especially in the mid-80s when, people were dancing to jazz records and, at the Wag Club and Ronnie Scott's. And so I decided to give London a try, and kind of liked it, so I stayed.
So let's go back to your time with the Jazz Messengers. Can you tell us about the experiences that you learnt from working with Art Blakey?
Well, with Art, I basically learned how to become a band leader, because all of the members of that group, or whatever, all the members of the group were, it was required that you sort of run the band from time to time. Like bring music in, arrange music. So basically he was training us to be band leaders. We had to compose music as well.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know about Art Blakey and about the talent that came out from his organisation, as you put it, can you tell us about the kind of people that he had within his group?
Well, he was a great motivator, and he is responsible for careers of some of the giants of jazz as we know them today, some of the past and present, and some still alive, I guess the most significant one at the moment is Wayne Shorter, who's doing incredible things, in music, but Lee Morgan was one of his proteges, Freddie Hubbard.
Yes, some big names came out from...
But Wynton Marsalis, most recently,
So really, from being in that group, that really launched your career in a big way.
Oh, definitely.
If you hadn't had that opportunity, then would you be where you are today, do you think?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I wouldn't, it would be a different path to getting here, He put me on the world stage when I was in my very early 20s, and that's rare. That's a rare thing. You don't have that today anymore.
No.
So the kind of mentoring thing has sort of gone by the wayside. He was very much a mentor to a lot of us, to all of us that played with him.
So you arrived in London mid-80s, and you were talking about the amazing jazz scene here in the mid-80s with the Wag Club, and can you tell us a bit, what was that like at that time when you arrived?
Yeah, well, when I was still working with Art, there was a DJ who used to play at the Wag. His name was Paul Murphy, and he used to come down to Ronnie's where we were playing and say, "Yeah, come check this out, let's go out to this club right around the corner." And we went down there and saw everybody dancing to Blue Note Records, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers from the 60s.
Yeah, and that wasn't happening anywhere else.
that was not happening in New York. Definitely not in the 80s, maybe in the 60s, but. And they were just dancing and having a great time, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, people dancing to jazz, and this is, serious jazz. This is groovy jazz, but it's still serious jazz, serious solos and all that,
Now, is there anything like that going on today, though?
No, that seemed to have disappeared,
That's a shame, isn't
There's still a strong interest in jazz, but that kind of element of it has, there's some young students coming up. There's a band known as Kansas Smitty, and they doing something similar, but they doing that stuff with swing music. And they have swing, sort of live swing gigs with the audience that come out. They come dressed in that period, in the 30s and 40s, with the big dresses, and they do all the dances to that. So there's that element of that going on.
Yeah, great.
With some of my students.
So you met a lot of the musicians then. I mean, it was around the time of the Jazz Warriors. You met those
people
guys.
like Cleveland Watkins, Steve Williamson, Julian Joseph, Jason Ravello, the fine pianist. Alec Dankworth. You know.
So of course the other opportunity that you had when you came to London is you had the sort of posting at the Guildhall as an educator there.
Yes.
Having studied at Berkeley.
At Berkeley, yeah.
How did you find your teaching at the Guildhall? Was London up to date?
Well, the teaching in the differences with Berkeley, they've been doing it for many, many years. You know, they were going from the 20s or 30s. You know, they've been, you know, sort of like creating that course from back then. So they have a lot to draw on. You know, whereas in London, it was a new phenomenon. You know, of teaching jazz. You know, and having sort of conservatory jazz students. You know. So a lot of the teachers had to sort of find their feet, and a lot of teachers also, you know, went to through the Berkeley program as well. So they would have learned and borrowed from that, just like I did, borrowed some ideas from that and use it, you know, in that setting. You know.
Great. So just moving now, you're on your 10th album release now, which is going to be released on February, end of February,
24th or 25th.
Yeah. And then you. Followed by a tour.
A tour, yeah.
Would you like to tell us about how this album came about?
Well, I always compose music. You know, I'm always writing. Ideas always come to me, and I try to develop them and work them into my repertoire. You know, I have a working band, a working quartet. The last record we did was a live record, which was recorded in Paris and London, and it's called Live in Paris and London, you know. So that was in 2010 that came out. So I thought it's time for a studio record, you know. And it's quite a while between the records, but. You know.
And of course, you got on the different tracks. They're all dedicated to people that are very special in your life from your past. And
yes.
Tell us about.
I'm always writing music. I'm always composing, and when I compose, I try to think. What does this song say to me? You know, does it bring to mind a person? Does it bring to mind a situation? You know, and sometimes it brings to mind a person. So, you know, it's not like I specifically say, "Oh, I'm going to write a song for such and such and such." You know, the song might come to me, and then I think, "Oh, this kind of reminds me of this person." So I'll dedicate it to them.
And what people do you have? I know you have your one named after
one
your
for my daughter,
and then of course the album named after your
Tate's
son.
Song is a tribute to my son who lives in California, and then the first song is called Mood Mode, and that's a tribute to the band because you know I'm very happy with this band. We've been playing together for about 15 years. You know, they're the first ones I call whenever I get a gig. You know, I see if they're available to do it. You know, so we've kind of developed a rapport, and you know, there's a kind of musical conversation going on. You know, when we play. You know, because we musically we understand each other very well, and we kind of like support each other while we're playing. You know, in every way that we can. And there's a lot of listening going on. You know, and I love that. You know?
Yeah, and of course you've got the pianist Andrew McCormack has also written a piece.
He wrote
well.
two of the pieces on the album. Yeah, he wrote.
Of course, he's now based in
Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
Yes, but the world is very small, so he comes over and does our gigs when he can. You know.
Yes.
And he's doing a tour with us in March. You know.
Yeah. And where is your tour going to take you?
Well, we go to Liverpool. We go to Leeds, we go to Sheffield, we go to Newcastle, we go to, there's 15 dates. I'm not sure. I know we have a launch date at Ronnie Scott's on the 18th of March.
Yeah.